What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Fitness Oracle. To, in this episode, we sit down with John Giordano, who's a program director of South Beach Detox, and we talk about a lot of really interesting stuff when it comes to anxiety, to depression, to um, mental health, to addictions, to nutrition, and how it all intertwines into one big giant glob. And I'm really blown away because this is a guy who's been there and done that. He's with drugs, alcohol, you name it, and who's been in the rut. Started off with $300 in his pocket and sold his company for $45 million. And this is a guy who had suffered from all this stuff: mental health issues, depression, anxiety, addictions. And it's just yet another example of what is possible if you can actually just do it. And this is what I've been trying to push with everything when it comes to this fitness oracle stuff, is just to be able to just do it. And if you're able to do just that, why not just be able to, hop on a quick call with us and just to see what's how to help you out and how to help you get the best benefit for yourself through exercise, mental health, mental health exercises, physical, mental, psychological. Well, we don't really do the psychological, but spiritual stuff. All that's included with our 12-week fat sizzler. It's more than just a weight loss program. So all you got to do, the link is with the show notes with here. All you got to do is just click the link, book the call with me. You're going to get a one-on-one Zoom call with me, and we're going to workshop what you need to work on, because that's what it's all about. If you're not interested in that, which is totally cool right now, totally cool, what we would love for you to do is to subscribe, let us know that you care, share, and hit the little bell to note so you get notified when we release a new episode or new tips and new tricks for people for you to consume. And again, if you know anybody who is suffering from any mental health issues, please, 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 please share this with them. This is more about that than everything else. And we would be also doing a disservice to them. So please share this with them. So again, I'm going to reiterate. Please subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell to let you know when we release a new episode. And if you know anybody who is suffering from any mental health issue, please, please, please share this with them. Sharing is caring in this situation. So I hope you guys enjoy the show, and I will see you on the call.
Most alcoholics we used to see come into treatment in their 40s and 50s and 60s. Today we're seeing them in the teens and forward. If you look at depression, anxiety, mental health issues, okay, and addiction as a mosaic, there's many pieces to the puzzle. And see, unfortunately, in a lot of treatment centers, it's one shoe fits all. And as you know, we're all different. So that doesn't work very well. Addicts come in, okay, protein deficient and volume depleted, meaning they don't drink enough water. If you don't have enough water in your system, because what is it, about 70 or 90%, I forget the number of, we're water base, okay, you can't clean out your toxins out of your body. They stay there in the cells, in the gut, right? So they don't drink enough water, they're protein deficient, and their body's totally out of balance because they're eating processed foods, a lot of sugar, all the things that cause all kinds of the body to go out of homeostasis, out of balance. So if we go to treat somebody for an illness, we need to look at the whole person. We need to look at what they've been eating, what they've been drinking, okay? How often they exercise. People don't realize about exercise. Look, heart patients, they recommend Exercise. Why? First of all, it keeps the body flowing. That's number one. Number two, what does it do for serotonin and dopamine? It raises it. And what does it do for stress? It lowers it. So now you're doing two things at the same time. You're lowering stress and you're raising your dopamine and serotonin. Those are our feel-good drugs that we manufacture naturally. And that's what addicts chase, dopamine and serotonin. So meditation is very important to calm the mind down, to give the energy in the body a chance to heal. Okay? Sleep, paramount. If you're not sleeping, you're not repairing yourself, your brain. You know, addicts, the hardest thing for addicts and alcoholics is not quitting drugs and alcohol, it's learning how to live life on life's terms. That's what we don't know how to do. You see? So we look to medicate.
Welcome to the Fitness Oracle, where we have real conversations with real people just like you, with real stories just like yours. And this is one of their stories. I am your host, John Katsavos. My guest today is John Giordano, who is the program director of South Beach Detox. He began his career in addiction treatment, increasingly dissatisfied with the quality of care that he has observed in the treatment facilities. He decided to set out on his own with only $300 when he opened up his addiction treatment facility, which has evolved into the highly awarded JCAHO accredited with 62 beds G&G holistic addiction treatment in North Miami Beach, Florida, which eventually sold for $45 million. He has a multitude of degrees and certifications that include certified addiction professional, master addiction counselor, certified hypnotherapist, certified criminal justice specialist, master in neuro-linguistic programming, certified practitioner of EMDR, certified sentence mitigation specialist, certified mindfulness and powerful mind-body awareness therapy, international associate certified drug and alcohol counselor. And in 2008, he was honored with a doctorate of human letters from the Sinai University in Jerusalem, Israel. He has authored 3 books: Kid from the South Bronx Who Never Gave Up, How to Beat Your Addictions and Live a Quality Life. Forgive me for that one. Proven Holistic Treatment for Addiction and Chronic Relapse. He has appeared on multiple different media streams, from CBS Evening News to The Situation Room with Wolf Blitzer. He's a 10th degree black belt and the national karate champion. He has also trained law enforcement officers and Green Berets in self-defense and negotiation techniques. John, welcome to the show.
Thank you. That almost like the whole show, right? I'm also a chaplain for the police department, by the way.
And a chaplain for the police department.
Look, when you're helping God's kids, you got to know as much as you can, and I still got a lot to learn. So
that's so true. That's so true. And it's actually really inspirational to have you on my show. It's really inspiring for me to have you on my show. We've talked before, and just before the show, we were talking about some recent work that you were doing with Dr. Deborah Mash. How's that going?
Well, right now they just got the USDA trials. I worked with Dr. Mash for about 12 years on the island of St. Kitts in a detox center, but it's a real detox center. You see, here's the problem with treatment today. We call detox centers detox. Well, if you look up the word detox, it means to detoxify, not to put drugs on top of other drugs. What they need to be called is stabilization units. That would be more appropriate, number one. And what I lecture about, and I do my best to get as many people to understand and see why we're 70 years behind the times when it comes to addiction and mental health. And the way I explain it is real simple stuff. The 28-day model for addiction in the United States was founded in 1950. And there's a couple of stories, but by two kids, two students that wanted to be, one wanted to be a psychologist, the other one wanted to be a psychiatrist. And I believe that's the story. And they came up with this 28 days. They had no experience in addiction treatment or anything like that. And Hazelton took a hold of it, and the insurance company took a hold of it. And that's the model. Unfortunately, it was based on alcoholism. Now, drugs today are much more powerful than alcohol. Now, alcohol is still a serious drug, but the other drugs, they do havoc on the brain as well. Most alcoholics we used to see come into treatment in their 40s and 50s and 60s. Today, we're seeing them in the 18, the teens and forward. So what the problem is that 28 days is almost comical when you take a look at it. So if you look at the model, you have person goes to detox, okay? It comes out depending on what drugs he was using. If it's alcohol, it's 5 days. If it's opioids or opiates, it's anywhere from 7 to 9 days if the insurance company would pay it, you know. And what the story is now they come out of detox and now they go into a treatment program if they're lucky. Once they go into a treatment program, they're still drug affected because drugs have a half-life, you know. And once they come out of a detox or stabilization unit, they're still detoxing. You don't detox right away. It takes time. Okay. So it takes about, let's say, 2 weeks for them to start clearing up. Not to be detox, but start clearing up. All right. And if they're lucky, they might bond with a therapist. And then the fourth week, they're gone. So here's a guy using for 20 years, and he's expected to stay clean and sober for 28 days. So it's like ridiculous. Now, if you really want to look at how we're treating people, it's also ridiculous. And I'll tell you why. First of all, if you look at people's diets, especially addicts, okay, it's horrific. So they throw their body out of balance. The gut or the microbiome or the microbiota or the flora in the gut, okay, whatever your name you choose to call it, is very important because 90% of dopamine and serotonin is manufactured in your microbiome, your gut. All right. Then it goes up what is called the vagus nerve into the brain and deposits the dopamine and serotonin. Now, if your gut's messed up, guess what happens to your head? Okay. So when we look at that and we're not taking care of the gut, all right. So the next piece is if you have the gene for addiction, I work with Dr. Kenneth Blum. He's the geneticist who found the addiction gene. Now, there is an addiction gene. Him and Ernie Noble founded it, I believe it was in 1976. So what they found out, and we did some research at my treatment center, we formulated what is known as the GARS test, genetic addiction risk score. And what we did is we swabbed, you say we took the DNA, and we saw what if they had the DRD2 ALE1 variant gene. I don't want to get too complicated for your audience, but it's a gene that we call it the addiction or alcoholic gene. And what they found out, if you have a mild, moderate, or severe propensity to be addicted. But now there's such a thing as epigenetics. Now, epigenetics means the social environment can change the gene expression, meaning that you won't become an addict just because you have the gene. So we're looking at that, okay? Now we're also looking at what addicts do is if they get depressed, bored, or anxious, they look to medicate. So in treatment, we always look at, well, there's trauma. You know, these are all important things, by the way, what I'm about to say, standard of treatment. Trauma is important because that's a basis Lack of spirituality also causes depression and stuff like that. Um, and we do a psychosocial, it's called, on them, and get their history of where they've been, what kind of drugs they do, and what happened to them when they were younger, or older, doesn't matter. And then we prescribe medication. But there's something missing. The body, last time I checked, was attached to the head, or the head was attached to the body, whichever way you want to call it. We're not looking at the body. It's all interconnected, like our planet. If something goes on one end of the planet, it affects this end of the planet. So we're not looking at these things. Now let's look at what are the co-contributing factors to addiction, which they are not looking at, which every time I do a lecture, I have all the scientists and doctors and psychiatrists. Wow, we never thought of this. And I'm saying to myself, how can you not? If you're going to treat somebody, you need to treat them comprehensively or holistically, which means comprehensive or holism. So you have leaky gut syndrome. Now, leaky gut syndrome, okay, has to do with your gut, of course. All right, can cause depression and anxiety. Your audience can go look anything I say up on the internet. You have H. pylori infection. That also causes depression and anxiety. You have hypoglycemia. That also causes depression and anxiety. You have low testosterone. That also causes depression and anxiety. You have closed head injuries, causes behavioral problems and depression and anxiety. So if you're predisposed for addiction, guess what you're going to do? You're going to look to medicate. So it's not just psychological. We have to learn to treat the whole person and give them time to heal. And that time depends on the severity of the illness. It's anywhere from 60 to 120 days, depending on the severity of the illness, because we're letting people too early out of inpatient treatment. They go right back to the same group of people they came out of. That's number one. And number two, they don't have the support so early on. Now, there's a third rule, okay? A third of the people would get well regardless of where they go or what they do. They can stand on their head in the closet because they want it, okay? And they're able to pay attention to what you need to do and overcome the cravings. But the rest of them can't.
Now, you've brought up so many amazing points that we're going to touch up on. We're going to touch up right now on addiction. You said something that the head and the body are connected. Now, I'm listening to Dr. Joe Dispenza, Breaking the Habit of Being
I
Yourself.
love Joe Dispenza. He has a heck of a video. I see that sometimes.
Amazing.
Yes.
And he actually talks about the differentiation of the mind and the body. Like, you can change the mind, but the body has already these intertwined subroutines that when something goes awry, it will fall back onto these subroutines because it's just a default state. He does it through meditation. I was just wondering, how do you go about doing something like that, like changing the body itself in order to be in tune with the head?
Okay. Now, if you look at depression, anxiety, mental health issues, okay, and addiction as a mosaic, there's many pieces to the puzzle. And see, unfortunately, in a lot of treatment centers, it's one shoe fits all. And as you know, we're all different. So that doesn't work very well. Addicts come in, okay, protein deficient and volume depleted, meaning they don't drink enough water. If you don't have enough water in your system, because what is it, about 70 or 90%, I forget the number of, we're water base, okay, you can't clean out your toxins out of your body. They stay there in the cells, in the gut, right? So they don't drink enough water, they're protein deficient, and their body's totally out of balance because they're eating processed foods, a lot of sugar, all the things that cause all kinds of the body to go out of homeostasis, out of balance. So if we go to treat somebody for an illness, we need to look at the whole person. We need to look at what they've been eating, what they've been drinking, okay? How often they exercise. People don't realize about exercise. Look, heart patients, they recommend exercise. Why? First of all, it keeps the body flowing. That's number one. Number two, what does it do for serotonin and dopamine? It raises it. And what does it do for stress? It lowers it. So now you're doing two things at the same time. You're lowering stress and you're raising your dopamine and serotonin. Those are our feel-good drugs that we manufacture naturally. And that's what addicts chase, dopamine and serotonin. So meditation is very important to calm the mind down, to give the energy in the body a chance to heal. Okay? Sleep, paramount. If you're not sleeping, you're not repairing yourself, your brain. Certain kind of amino acids that are the precursors for neurotransmission, very important. Another thing that the body has that I didn't mention is heavy metal toxicity. Heavy metals, mercury, antimony, all right, lead. We're not looking at this stuff. And, we're calling people attention deficit disorder, bipolar disorder. If they have heavy metals, it mimics those disorders. So let's give them Prozac. Oh, wait a second, that doesn't work for that. You see, we're doing things quickly. It's get them in, get them out, put them in the, like warehousing people. These are human beings. When I save or when you save, or if anybody saves one addict from their addiction, they save a whole family. But people don't understand. So exercise is paramount. Meditation is paramount. Sleep is paramount. Water, enough amino acids, enough nutrients, the right kind of food to eat. It sounds overwhelming to people, but really you do a little at a time as best you can. And addicts are feel-good junkies. All right. If we feel good, we're going after it, man. I got clients chasing me for the nutrients I give them. Now addicts don't do that. Now, if it was drugs, I used to sell drugs, so they used to chase me for the drugs. Okay. But now I'm selling nutrients. And they say, I don't know what that stuff is, but I really like that. Can I get another bottle of that? So it's sad because everything revolves around money. And that's the sad part. Okay. If you don't have insurance, you're stuck in a treatment center. They do their best. Look, I'm not putting anybody down for what they're doing. I'm just saying we need to expand and look at alternatives. But the problem is that it takes money. And the insurance companies, they refuse to really do what works. Okay. So doctors go, well, how do you know what a client needs? Well, really simple. You do a micronutrient test. You find out what kind of nutrients they have on board and what they don't have on board. Well, how do you know they have heavy metals? Well, you do urine, 24-hour urine. You could do blood. And you do hair analysis. Hello. Now you have closed head injuries. You have what is called pause. Okay. And what happens is, okay, what do you do for that? They don't know. They say time. After you get out of treatment, still in a, floating around. Hyperbaric medicine. Are you familiar with hyperbarics?
No, but I have heard you talk about hyperbaric treatment on your podcast, and I'm very curious about that.
Okay. I have a hyperbaric chamber, by the way, in my house. Okay. And I'm a street kid. I'm an inner city kid. Okay. And believe me, if I have something there, you better believe it's going to work. Otherwise, why would I do it? I have the ability to have my own. They cost a lot of money, but you can go out and also do hyperbarics. They have places that you can do it if you're doing the right kind. Okay. What is hyperbarics? It was used, let's say it's been around for over 100 years. It was used for the bends. That's when divers go down real deep, and when they come back up, they have to get rid of the nitric oxide out of their blood and all this kind of stuff, and they have to go into a chamber and decompress. Now, while that happened, they found out that it also heals wounds. And I was with Dr. Paul Harch and Dr. Williamson. They're two pioneers in hyperbaric chamber. they went to the Senate and got them to approve wound healing for diabetics in the VA because they were costing the VA $70,000 to amputate an arm or a leg, and then the doctors afterwards and the rehabilitation afterwards. And hyperbarics, it was a no-brainer, and it was healing the wounds. Now, with Dr. Hart's research, found that it also helps with TBI cases, traumatic brain injury cases. So I ask your audience, do drugs damage the brain? I don't think anybody's going to say no. What are we doing about it? You can meditate till your eyeballs fall out. It's not going to fix that. You see? So what you do is you do hyperbarics and you heal the brain. Now, at my treatment center, we had all these things. We also had acupuncture. And people say, well, acupuncture? Yeah, it's only been around for 5,000 years. I mean, what the hell? I mean, it must not work. All this stuff is really comical when you start to think about it. If you look at our water supply, we're just finding out we have lead pipes. Okay, look at what was it, Michigan, that had all the problems with the water. I mean, come on, we're not looking. I was in Rome, I was in Italy, and we went to a place called Herculean, and it's an island where I think it was Mount Vesuvius. I don't even know how to say it. Anyway, it's a volcano. Okay. And it went on the whole island. Everybody got buried with the ash and things like that. And they found a lot of writings about how long people lived. At that time, it was maybe 30 years old. And they had a lot of mental health issues also. Well, what they found out, what are the Romans known for? One of the things is plumbing. And guess what they used for pipes? Lead. So if you're wondering why some of the emperors were nuts, okay, they had lead poisoning.
We can go on a tangent on that one right now.
I mean, we're not looking at this stuff. We're like investigators with one eye closed.
Yeah.
So hyperbarics is really amazing. Now, let me tell you another story with hyperbarics that just came out in the news. In Israel, they did a program with hyperbarics at 5 days a week at an atmosphere of 2, which is about 15 pounds per square inch of pressure, for 3 months, 5 days on, 2 days off. And a very interesting thing occurred. Have you ever heard of telomeres?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, telomeres are the ends of chromosomes. That is the biological age of our bodies, not the chronological age. Now, you could be 50 and you could be 30 biologically, or you could be 50 and be 80 biologically. So that's how, and as you get older, the telomeres get shorter. What they found out is they increased the length of the telomeres 20%. That is like going back in time with your body. It's like absurd, incredible. There's so many things that are out there that people don't know about, and unfortunately, most of the wealthy people that know about this stuff are the ones that can do a lot of these things.
How could somebody utilize that in their day-to-day life? Like, how could somebody like who doesn't have a lot of money to be going to hyperbolic treatment for 5 days out of the week? Because I looked it up here in Toronto and it costs like $60 per session.
That's cheap. It's usually $200.
So my question again to you is, how could somebody like afford to do something like that?
Okay, now
Like,
here's how we can do that. Okay, if everybody gets together, okay, and that's a big chore, and petition the insurance companies to pay for this stuff. Because it's like kind of like ridiculous when you look at things. The insurance companies, like with addiction treatment, they only pay for certain things that you do, and the other things that really work, they don't want to pay for. So what happens is this: a guy goes in, he's in treatment 28 days. Let's say if he even stays in treatment 28 days. Then he gets out, he relapses, goes back to detox, goes back to a treatment program, goes out, maybe he's a month clean, goes back into another treatment. I mean, all the money they're wasting by not doing it the right way the first time. That's like building a house on sand, okay? And it keeps collapsing and you keep building it on sand over and over again, hoping the sand will pack down. That's how stupid we are as a people. We're not looking at things properly. And you say, how can they do it? Well, look, one of the things you can do is you can afford to get a test to see if you have heavy metals. It's not expensive. You can eat properly, stay away from processed foods, stay away from sugars, stay away from all that garbage, okay, as best you can. If you have, I don't know what level of care you're talking about, maybe you can spend a few dollars on certain nutrients that will help you, okay? Save up your money, get a micronutrient test, which is not a lot of money, okay? You can do that to see where you're at. So there are little things you can do. Look, unfortunately, that's called life in a big city, all right? I was homeless when I started my recovery journey. I got divorced. My wife got the house, got the car, got everything. My friend loaned me a room in a hotel that he owned, and I would live there, and I would have a little hot plate, and I would have a jar when I could put my quarters in when I had quarters, and somebody loaned me a bicycle. So that was my beginning journey. And that's why I wrote my book, The Kid from the South Bronx Who Never Gave Up, because eventually, I was still clean, I was still sober. I did everything. I went back to school. I only went to the ninth grade. So I had to go get a GED at least, and I started my journey in recovery that saved my life. So I started the first treatment center I had. I was 14 months clean. And my friend of mine, and I lied, I said to him, I said, look, I want to open up a treatment center. And I got this famous doctor, who was my doctor actually in Mount Sinai Hospital, who wants to open up one. I never talked to the doctor, I'm a street kid. So, I use that. All right. So he says, well, if you got that doctor, I'll give you the money. So he said, well, how much do you need? Now, this is the funny part. The only thing I know about treatment centers is I was in one. Okay. I had no clue. I said, oh, $250,000. He says, well, if you can do that, you got it. So I went into the doctor's office. I told him, hey, I have $250,000. Would you like to open up a treatment center? He says to me, John, funny you walked in here. I was just thinking about that. He was a comedian. He always joked around. So I opened up a treatment center. And I opened it up with my doctor and a lot of the people that treated me when I was in treatment. Unfortunately, I was a little naive. I'm a street kid. If you cheat me, I punch you in the face. I mean, that's all. I mean, forget lawyers and doctors and all this stuff. Done. All right. Well, I'm in recovery now. I can't do that anymore. So to make it a long story short, I got screwed out of my treatment center. But I had to stay there because I needed the hours to get my degrees. And who was going to give me those hours? Nobody. So I had to swallow my pride, swallow my ego. They paid me a salary. They gave me the outpatient clinic when I owned the whole thing. And, they said to me, well, if you don't sign this paper, we're never going to pay back your friend to put the money up, and we'll just change the company. I was in shock. It's my doctor, my therapist. How could they do that to me? But I forgot they were new in recovery. See, I didn't know. I was new too. They only had 3 years maybe each. So, just because you stop using drugs and alcohol doesn't mean you totally stop the behaviors. Addicts, the hardest thing for addicts and alcoholics is not quitting drugs and alcohol. It's learning how to live life on life's terms. That's what we don't know how to do. You see? So we look to medicate. So what happened is I wound up staying there for 6 years. And then I learned everything about treatment. I learned everything about how to run a treatment center. I was on a mission. So what happened was the 6th year after I got everything, I never had a contract from them. They were supposed to give me a contract, but I just kept my mouth shut, my head down. And then I finally had that reputation that I wanted. And I learned all the stuff that I needed to know. So I went into the guy's office and the therapist who helped me, and I says, I tell you what, I'm going to rearrange your face, and doctors are not going to be able to put it back together again. That's number one. And number two, I'm going to have my uncle visit you. Now, I'll give you a little background about my uncle. My uncle's a hitman. We had him in treatment. He was addicted to crack cocaine. So he was in, and I would tell the staff what he did for a living, and they would go, they would, yeah, okay, discounted. They figure I was embellishing things. All of a sudden, I'm sitting in my office, and I get the therapist comes running in, all excited. I go, what's the matter? Your uncle's talking about all the people he killed. I said, I told you what he did for a living. So anyway, he knew who my uncle was, you know, and I was my uncle's favorite. So he knew that too. So they gave me my contract. I left in 3 months. And I quit after 3 months. I left. I wind up with $80,000, which is a joke. They were making millions. And they did it fair. They did it right. They didn't do things that were wrong, except what they did to me. And anyway, I winded up, the same guy that put up the money for the first time said, I got another guy that wants to open up a treatment center. He says, but make a business plan. I said, okay. So I did a business plan. And I went to meet the guy in West Palm Beach. Now I'm in Miami, and he's at West Palm Beach. So I'm about a minute away from the meeting. I forgot the darn business plan. Well, I can't go back home. I got to go there. So I told the guy, look, I apologize. I'm embarrassed. I forgot the business plan. He said, no. Threw a napkin at me. He says, write down what you need. So that's what I did. And he said, how much you need? So here we go again. I said, $250,000. So he gave me $250,000. I don't know where I got the number from, but it just keeps popping out of my head. And we had the treatment center. It was a 30-bed treatment center, residential. And we got the JACO accreditation, which is the gold standard in the industry, and children and families and all this other stuff. I hired my sponsor to be the clinical director. And well, what happened was I didn't know the guy that gave me the money was what they call a corporate raider. And I didn't read the contract, okay, because I was so excited about opening up a treatment center again. I didn't read it. I just signed it like a fool. And for those out there, make sure you have a lawyer if you're going to do something, and a good one, by the way. And make sure he's not the other guy's lawyer. Anyway, so what wound up happening was he fired me after a year. So I says, you can't fire me. I'm your partner. So he says to me, read your contract. So I got really pissed off. I was going to throw him through the window. And I said, I can't do that. And again, so I got all my stuff and I talked to my sponsor. And, in NA and AA, they have what is known as a sponsor that guides you through the steps. That's what a sponsor is. He's a confidant, someone close to you. And he turned around and says, I can't leave. I said, what do you mean you can't leave? He doesn't know this program. We do. He says, I can't. I just bought a house and, I make all this money and I can't go. So here I am. My sponsor left me out. The place, I was gone. I went out in the parking lot. I sat in my car and I cried. And I had my stuff that I had in my office in a little box. And that was it. Then I got asked to be a clinical director at a public program, which is tremendously different. And it was a public program that had 55 beds for people that had HIV, people that had psychiatric problems, and also addiction. But it was like they call it an OTC. And what that means is they put a client in the middle of the room, they beat him up, they break him down, and then they build him up again. And I said, wait a while, I've never needed anybody to beat me up. I did a great job on my own beating myself up. So I didn't agree with that methodology. And then we would feed them cakes and chocolates and stuff at lunch for dessert because we got all our food donated. And then the clients would act out. Then we would put them on a bench and put a sign around their neck. I says, what are we doing? We're causing it and then we're punishing them, and shaming them. I said, this doesn't make any sense. So I quit. Then I was with a woman that I was engaged to, and she says, why didn't you open up a treatment center? I said, forget it. I'm not opening up any treatment centers anymore. He says, no, 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 no. Why don't you open up a little outpatient clinic? And I says, look, I have $300 in the bank because I had a little spending addiction, maybe a big spending addiction. And I only had $300, and my friend owned a property, was on his property, a little 750 square foot building. And I said, okay. I asked my friend Bill, he says, hey, Bill, how much you want rent for that little building? He says, how much you have? I said, I don't have much. I have $300. He says, look, take it for a couple of months till you get started and give me $300. So that's what I did. And it built and it kept building and it kept building. And instead of dragging all the way through, we had no money. We had creditors chasing us. I got my partner who joined and his son joined. And anyway, in 2012, we sold it for $45 million. We wind up having 7 buildings, 147 employees. So if people don't think miracles happen, believe me, they happen. But you have to do the work and never give up. And we were never about the money. And that's the truth. What we're about was really helping people. And I believe, in my heart of hearts, that God, the creator, or whatever you want to call it, saw that we really wanted to help people and helped us to grow exponentially all the way through. And that's where I winded up. And then I do consulting. But when I first opened up, everybody laughed at me because I only took cash. I didn't take any insurance. And when I got cash, I used to put it in my pocket. I never wrote it down. And I said, when I had my new partner, he said, well, where's the books? I said, what books? I said, oh, don't worry, they'll pay. He said, what? You're crazy. They ain't going to pay. So we got books. So that was the kind of thing that happened. Anything else you want to know?
Well, that was part of one of my questions was what was your journey with addiction? But you pretty much summed it right up with that. So we can move on from that one. My next question would be like, a lot of people out there, when they're suffering from like mental health issues, anxiety, depression, and like all this kind of really bad stuff, they all feel that they're alone. With the story that you just shared with us, it comes out to me that you consistently surrounded yourself with other people to help you along with your journey. What's the one thing that that you can impart on for somebody to start the process to get over their addiction?
Okay. Well, I have a unique situation. My wife is also a recovering addict, and she has bipolar disorder. She suffers from depression and anxiety. And I learned a lot from her. When sometimes the medications don't work. See, as far as medications go, let me just put it to you this way. Medications, SSRIs, MAO inhibitors, SSRIs are Zoloft, Wellbutrin, all these different drugs for depression, anxiety, and stuff like that. They were only meant for short-term intervention. And now, since the pharmaceutical companies seem they can make a ton of money, they made it long-term. And it's really a guessing game, unfortunately. Okay, take this, take that. Oh, let's raise that milligrams, or let's lower that. Let's give you this because this is happening. It's like an educated guessing game. Instead of using pharmacogenetics, which is a DNA test that can tell which drugs may benefit you more than other drugs, is another issue, which they don't do. Certain people need to be on medication and nutrients and amino acids and all that stuff. It just doesn't work in a timely fashion for them. And they fall apart before they can go further. So it's not for everyone, okay? Medication's not for everyone, but it's also for certain people. Nutrients and fixing your body, okay? You don't know, everybody's different. You see how it works, okay? You can do both. Do your medication, fix your body at the same time, and then have your doctor titrate you down, okay, and see where you wind up. So Depression is very debilitating. There's clinical depression, there's situational depression. It all depends what's going on in your life. Most people hide, they put on a fake face, um, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. I suggest anybody that's suffering from this, go to a psychiatrist, but go to one that does alternative medicine also. So you're not with somebody who's just a pull pusher, a pill pusher. So you want somebody that's going to look at you as a whole person, not just a piece of you, like we spoke of earlier. Um, so that's my suggestion for that. And you got to push through it. Most people that have depression, they can't get out of bed. Oh, they don't want to get out of bed. They want to put the covers over their head and they want the world to go by. You know, there's some suggestions I have what my wife does. She jumps out of bed, very difficult. Sometimes I have to push her out of bed when she's in that mode, and go take a cold shower and then take a hot shower. That snaps her out of it for a while. Then eat something, you know, and then talk about, with your therapist. So usually she talks to me a lot, and she has her own psychiatrist that she talks to. But, it doesn't happen that often, but it does happen periodically over the years. And, you give some support. There's no shame in having depression or anxiety. Speaking about anxiety, my son had anxiety and severe anxiety where he couldn't even leave the house. I mean, it was horrible and worried about everything, all this stuff. So I says, look, let's go to Ibogaine. Now, Ibogaine is a bush from West Africa with the Weedy tribe, and it's used usually for a rite of passage for the natives. And what it also we found out with Howard Lutzoff is a gentleman who was a heroin addict who wanted to get high, all right, and found this drug or this plant medicine and wanted to see how high he could get with it. And he was a heroin addict. You know how we are as addicts. We just, we try anything. It doesn't matter what the hell it is, right? And he took it and he woke up the next morning detoxed and no cravings. And he couldn't believe it. This is a guy that was using drugs for years, heavy duty heroin addict. So he opened up, being an addict, seeing he could make money from it. He opened up, I think it was in Panama, and somehow he got in touch with Dr. Deborah Mash, who was my colleague that I work with. And they opened up a clinic, and she decided to break away from him and opened up her own in St. Kitts, and that's how her and I got together. And anyway, I brought my son, I taught him how to meditate, how to calm himself. I gave him some GABA and some different nutrients to calm him down. And we got on the plane. He meditated. He just barely made it. Okay. We went to do the Ibogaine. And after the Ibogaine, no more anxiety. It was gone. Today, he has it a little bit, but he deals with it. It's no big deal anymore. And I decided, since my job on the island of St. Kitts with Dr. Deborah Mash, with the clients that were detoxing with Ibogaine, I would debrief them, and then I would help them to go into the journey and set their mindset, okay, their intent. And then when they come out, I would help them debrief them about what they saw, because they go into a dream state and they see a lot of the different traumas and things that happen to them in their life through imagery, through sounds, through little snapshots of images, and they can't really totally make out what it is. So I help them to get that done.
So ibogaine is something like ayahuasca, just a little.
No, okay, glad you mentioned that. Okay. You have psilocybin, which are mushrooms. You have ayahuasca, which is a vine and a plant together. Now, ayahuasca is a 4-hour journey. All right. It's a very spiritual journey, but it's not like Ibogaine. Let's put it this way. Ayahuasca is like, say, 7 or 8 on a scale of 10. And Ibogaine is 10. So it's the top of the food chain. When you do Ibogaine, you go out for anywhere from 8 to 10, maybe sometimes even 12 hours, depending if you're a fast metabolizer, slow metabolizer, and how your liver is functioning. So it's a different journey entirely. What we used to do on the island, because Dr. Mash was very adamant about safety, I would take them before they went to the island. They would come to me in Florida. I would put a heart monitor on them to make sure their heart was functioning properly. It was a 24-hour heart monitor, not just an EKG, which is only a snapshot of what's going on in the heart at that moment in time. So you need a full spectrum of what's happening. And then we would do blood work on them. We'd see what their body was doing. We'd also see what's on board, what kind of drugs are on board. And then we would bring them to the island. I'm saying kids. Then they would do blood work again. They would give them an EKG, okay, to check them out for that moment of time, see what's going on. I would sit down with them and talk with them, like I told you, and make their intent for them. Then what we would do is we would put them in a bed. We would put eye shades on them. We would put headsets on them. And this way, we would keep them in a containment field. We would give them a test dose, and then we'd see how they tolerate. And then what we would do is give them a full dose. Excuse me 1 second. Okay,
No problem.
my little 14-month-old and her mother is trying to entertain him, entertain her. She's a little pistol boy, let me tell you. So then they would come out of the journey and we would debrief them.
Nice. So it's more powerful than ayahuasca.
Oh yeah, much more powerful. And people that do that were on drugs, they don't have any cravings anywhere from 30 to 90 days, which is unheard of for detox.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Now we're going to skip a little bit and we're going to change gears a little bit here. And we're going to be talking about something that's very near and dear to me. When we're talking about depression, I have suffered from depression myself, where I was locked in my parents' bedroom for a year and I almost committed suicide twice. You talked about something so simple on a recent podcast that when I heard it, I'm like, this guy is onto something. You talking about laughter as a therapy. So why laughter? Because like I said, like it seems so simple, but I want you to talk about more about it because it's just so.
Well, you know what's interesting about the human body and the mind? When like for instance, when you cry, it changes the structure of your hormones. Everything starts changing in your body when you release that pressure. You see, depression, what happens is this. You keep on with look at everything as thoughts as energy. When you suppress all those thoughts and you keep stuffing them down, all those feelings, things like that, what happens is the body starts to like break down because it's holding all of that stuff. So when you could laugh, you change the structure of your thoughts and you release the energy from your body. So laughter is really important. When you're depressed, you're not laughing, you know? So what you got to do is you got to figure out how to get yourself to find up laughing, okay? When you get depressed, you don't want to leave the house. You don't want to go anywhere. You don't want to see anybody because you're embarrassed. You're full of shame, okay? You feel weak. You feel like, what's wrong with me? I'll never get out of this darkness. How am I doing?
Bang on.
Okay. So there's certain things that you got to check. You got to see, you probably have serotonin deficiency. Okay. So you can take 5-HTP. Okay. You can take magnesium. You can take GABA. There's a bunch of things that you can take, nutraceuticals, that can help you. Okay. Exercise, paramount. And you could do it. You could have did it in your room, but you don't feel like doing anything. You got to get off your ass in plain English and push yourself. God bless you. And that is the only way you're going to get out of this. See, there's no shame in having depression. It's like you have diabetes, so what, you should walk around with shame? People that look down on people that have mental health issues and addiction, they don't have a clue, okay, about what that person's going through. I'll give you an example. I was teaching at one of the colleges. Here I am, a kid from the South Bronx. I went to the ninth grade and got a GED. Is teaching at one of the colleges, by the way. And I'm doing group therapy. And I have a psychiatrist there, a psychologist. I have LCSWs, MS, all the W's we had. Anyway, these therapists. They said to me, we don't understand why people do drugs, you know? And I says, well, they said, why didn't they just stop? I said, that's a good question. So let's do a little experiment with everybody in there. How many people smoke cigarettes? We had about 3 or 4. They're killing themselves, but that's another story. Anyway, how many people drink coffee every day? So they raised their hand. I said, okay, here's what we're going to do. I want you all to stop the cigarettes, stop the coffee for a month. Oh, they all went, what do you mean stop? I said, what's the matter? Why can't you can't stop? Oh yeah, but why do we have to do that? Blah, 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 blah. I said, well, look, first of all, times it by 100 when you're doing drugs, trying to quit. Look what you're going through. And those who are smoking cigarettes, do you ever read on the side they cause cancer? So you're killing yourself, and then you're trying to figure out why other people are killing themselves. Oh, with something different. Pardon me.
No, you're right.
Yeah. So, I think today's society, most people are addicted to something. Now, what we call addiction, okay, is RDS, reward deficiency syndrome. And most, if not all, addicts and alcoholics and things that suffer from depression and anxiety. You know, um, all I can say is this: I watched my wife try to commit suicide 3 or 4 times. Before, well, a couple of times before I met her, and once was we were going together. Had nothing to do with me. Had nothing to do with the situation. All of a sudden, she started going and she started not telling me what was going on. You know, and she came out of the room one day. So I took my whole bottle of pills, and I went, oh shit. Okay, so instead of trying to make her throw up, which I should have did, I didn't do that, and I dragged her to the hospital right away, and I told them what was going on, and of course they don't listen. All right, so then they had to intubate her, and she could have died. So yeah, I understand depression. I live with it. I understand it. And I used to be depressed a little bit, not as much, okay, as her or you. But depression is depression, whatever way you want to slice and dice it. And it's the shame and the guilt that people hold. And listen, there's no shame in your game if you have an illness, and people that are judging it, excuse my expression, they're assholes. Sorry, okay? Because who are they to judge you in your life and how you're suffering? And the bottom line is this: you can heal yourself. Obviously, we're talking. You don't look depressed to me.
Well, no, I'm not depressed. Not anymore. I keep telling people, you never truly get out of it, but you get better tools to fight it.
There you go. And there's different levels of depression too. What happens where you maybe once went into deep depression, maybe you're just slightly in depression, and then you start using your tools to get out of the depression.
Yeah.
What are some of your tools that you get out of the depression with?
I just go out for walks in parks and long walks in parks. Start listening to guys like Dr. Joe Dispenza to get myself out of myself. I start looking inwards. One thing that you actually mentioned is meditation, which I actually just started practicing this year, and it actually really helps. I do my morning and evening prayers. Just I try and help as many people other than myself. Like there's just so many tools that I have gained over years. Like by profession, I'm actually a personal trainer, so I understand the connection between exercise, nutrition, sleep, recovery, and how it all plays an effect on the brain. So I get all that. Um, but for you, how important is meditation?
Okay. Meditation is, I meditate every day. I pray every day. Sometimes I pray 2 or 3 times a day, thanking God, whatever you want to call it, okay, for the gift that he or she gave me, which is life. When I tell people that when you were born, you got the gift of life, okay? It's what you do with that life is your gift back to your creator, to make it real simple. And you see, what you're doing, okay, is very courageous because you're getting out and you're pushing yourself through and you say, you know what? I'm tired of being sick and tired, and I'm just going to do. You don't even have to believe in the stuff we're talking about. You can tell everybody, just do it. If it doesn't work, don't do it. Try something else. And that's the best information I give to anybody. But absolutely, always, if you start feel depressed, if you start wanting to use, go to another room, get out, call a friend, go to a meeting, do something to get your mind in a different direction. And what's really interesting with psychedelics was when I was using, I used to do a lot of psychedelics, LSD, peyote. I did everything known to man. I was searching for that knowledge that I already had. I didn't even know I had it, but that was another story. But what it is your intent. So when you start to change your mind with a different intent, okay, things change chemically in your body. And the walking you were doing was oxygenating your body also. And when you oxygenate your body and you change your focus, you change the way the chemicals in the brain start functioning and the body. So the things that you said will help a lot of people and the things that we're talking about. Now, most people say, well, I can't meditate. Everything, I get all these things in my head. I start thinking about them. Okay, just don't hold on to them. Make believe there's two doors, one on one side, one on the other. Let the words come in and then let it go out the other side. And you're not going to learn and do it right away. It takes practice, just like anything else. You got to practice. Even if you do it for 2 minutes, then increase it to 4 minutes slowly. Okay? It works. Meditation's been around for thousands of years. I mean, Jesus, what do you think people are doing all these years for? It's like acupuncture. If this stuff doesn't work, what do you think? People will continue to do it? Give me a break. Okay? So stop being in your head the bullshit that you don't believe everything you think. That's number one. Okay? Just do. And that's the only thing I could tell you, and that's what I do. That's what you do. That's what my wife does. That's what my clients do. Period. Talk to people. Stop being embarrassed. So what? Keep going. Who gives a shit?
I think we're kind of dancing around a little bit of a topic here, which is kind of off the whim. I didn't have this planned, but how important is it to fail and not hold on to the construct of the word failing?
Oh, that's my favorite subject. It really is. You know what? There are no failures. There are only lessons. And you know what a failure is? Is when you die or when you get hit and you stay down and you don't get up. That's what a failure is. So there are no failures in life. There are only lessons. Sometimes we repeat the same failure over and over again, if you want to call it a failure, the same lesson over again until you get it. Called the 100 monkeys. But
I
that's
love it.
just it. It's all your perception, how you look at things and how you look at life. If you look at it through a lens of everything negative, guess what you're going to see? Everything negative. And that's what we do when we're in depression. That's what we do when we're in anxiety. That's what we do when we're in addiction. We just, we give up. If you don't give up, believe it or not, stick around till the miracle happens and never give up.
Yep. Because I find that people that put that label on themselves and on other people, um, it actually helps amplify depression and feeling bad about yourself and increasing anxiety, because I've suffered from depression and I've had panic attacks before. So I know exactly what this kind of stuff is. Like I feel down some days, I feel up some days. Like again, in another recent podcast, you actually talked about the difference between feeling down and feeling depressed.
We don't. The people that suffer from depression, they don't know what normal is,
Yeah.
and that's just the way it is. They don't know what normal is. Everything's depression. No, not everything is not depression. It's all. Listen, you, you lost a job, so you feel down. It doesn't necessarily you're depressed. You're down. It's okay. People feel down. Okay, depression and down is two different things. And when you let other people, like give me an example. When I first opened up my little outpatient program, everybody told me that it would fail. I don't buy into other people's stories or other people's thoughts. They're not mine. And you see, everybody, we all want to please people. We want everybody to look at us a certain way. Most people don't really care. They're looking at themselves. And then they're trying to put their stuff on everybody else. That's their own fears. You know, a lot of times a father or a mother would say, look at you. How come you're not doing anything? Look at you. What's going on? So, really, what's behind that is they care about you and they want you to move forward, but they don't communicate properly. So, what they're doing is instead of helping you, they're pushing you down further. If you listen, you see, because the truth is you're not doing anything. So, all they're doing is reinforcing what you're already doing. But if you get off your ass in plain English, what is success? Okay. What do you think success is? Let me ask you the question. What do you think success is?
Success for me,
Yeah. What is successful mean? How do you judge a person if they're successful?
if they're living out their purpose, what they think that their purpose is.
What is that? What is your success? What do you think success is for you?
Well, for me, it would be, doing these podcasts on a regular basis, having, trying to help more people through my workout programs, um, in a country that I feel like I'm at home. That to me would be ultimate success.
Okay, so it's not about money,
No.
not about what kind of car you have. You know what's funny about money? Since I was a homeless and then I'm a millionaire, I'll tell you what the funny part about it is. All right, if you allow it, I don't allow it. Okay, but if you do allow it, when you don't have any money, you're worried about making money. When you have money, guess what? You're worried about losing money. It's the same shit. It's just the other end of the stick, man. Okay? So don't bother worrying, you know? And, I'm happy wherever I live. I don't care. Look, I live in a beautiful home. I have everything, that you could possibly want to have. But you know what? The most important thing, and I deal with a lot of very wealthy people, and I tell them all the time, they're miserable. They're not healthy. They're lonely. They're human beings. And to me, what successful is to be a human being that has compassion, that has values, that has integrity, that is doing helping other human beings less fortunate than him or her, just like you're doing. It's not measured in how much money and how are you inside? Does it make you happy when you help somebody else? I mean, there's people around that all they know is to put down other people. Okay. Oh, look at you, man. You're not, look at the car you're driving, or look where you live, or there are people like that.
Yep.
And there are people that want what they have, you know. And I mean, it just goes on and on and on. To me, if you're healthy, you're wealthy. Period. Doesn't matter it's not about money. It's about you. Because I tell my friends, all right, yeah, you're wealthy, but you're not healthy. So who's getting your money, brother? The
It all,
doctors,
it all stays here too.
and it's just that, listen, I mean, laugh. I laugh at life sometimes. I give you an example that's just happened. My daughter, She got paralyzed. She has Guillain-Barré syndrome, and she's got such an attitude. She's just like me. Her and I, we're just the same. And she goes, Dad, it is what it is. I just got to deal with it. Then 2 days ago, she was getting off her wheelchair. She's just started learning how to walk again. And she got off her wheelchair and she don't feel her feet. That's the problem. She tripped and broke her 2 ankles and her tibia in her leg. And now she has to have an operation. So I call her up on the phone. I said, what's going on? Hey, Dad, can you believe this shit? She says, here I am in the hospital. I was just getting better. She says, you know what? 6 months, whatever it is, I'll get back out and do what I have to do. And I get other people that cry and poor me. That doesn't help anything.
Yep.
And listen, the same energy it takes to do that, it's the same energy to do the other way. And when people want people to feel sorry for them, that's another issue. They got the poor me, so they feel everybody should say, oh, poor you. And when they do that, all they're doing is helping you get worse. I'm a karate teacher, and I've been doing that. We spoke about that for over 60 years. I have over 200 black belts that are champions, besides me being a champion. How do we do it? I worked them until their arms fell off. Don't complain in my class. If you want to complain, go to another school. You want to be good at something or you want to be great? What do you want to be?
Yeah. You and I have a very common avenue there. Like I actually was brought into the martial arts world through Shotokan karate, and my sensei came from Okinawa, and we're gonna touch up on that in just a little bit.
Yeah, a lot of Goju comes from Okinawa.
Yeah, he was. He found out that I was starting to become a bully, so I was cleaning toilets for like 6 months. I was no longer a bully.
It's I love it when the karate changed tremendously over the years. It lost its Budo, its spirit. A lot of this is about tournaments and about fighting and about, karate is really a martial art. I learned from 3 grandmasters, some of the top people in the country and out of the country, actually. And I'm also a black belt in judo, black belt in jiu-jitsu, and a 10th degree black belt in Goju karate. And karate today is more a sport, and it's not so much a discipline as it was before. And they're losing the art form also. And, I teach police officers and I teach guys, special forces guys. Some I teach how to kill and some I teach how to, holding techniques. The sport made it well known, but what the problem is that a lot of schools, they don't teach karate, they teach nonsense. It's supposed to build up your spirit. It's supposed to make you a better human being. It's supposed to make you able to set an example for others. Fighting is just an offshoot of what it is, defending, self-defense. The idea is not to get into a fight, okay?
Yeah.
Is to learn how to get out of one, not get in one. So most people don't get that, And what's interesting? I found this out to be when you have a true martial artist, there's a certain energy that we expel. Okay, people know it. You walk into a room, they sense it. I used to be a bouncer and I used to do bodyguard work. I did all that stuff. And I had a whole group of guys that worked for me. And when we went in there or any place, guys, they just would know right away. I don't want to mess with this guy. When you walk in a bar or walk in someplace, you look at a guy and you say, I don't like this guy. The guy didn't do anything to you. Or you say, I don't want to mess with that guy. It's an energy that people pick up. They don't even realize they think it's a physical thing. It's really an energy. See?
Yep.
So if you know what you know, okay, You don't have to prove it to anybody. You don't have to show it off to anybody. Most of the guys I know that really can tear your head off, they're the calmest, nicest people you want to meet. We have a saying in the martial arts: gentle in life, but ferocious in combat.
Yeah.
And nothing is impossible.
Yeah.
And you shall always be aware.
Yeah. The reason well, I stopped karate because I got into an argument with my sensei. I was beating up black belts in tournaments, and I'm like, I'm ready for my black belt, and he's like, no, you're not. I was 12 years old, and he's like, no, you're not. I'm like, yes, I am. No, you're not. So I did my test. Uh, I passed the test, and he marked a black line on my brown belt. I'm like, what the hell is this? I wanted my black belt. He was right. I was wrong.
How old were you?
12.
Okay, see, that's another issue I have. You know what Q means? You know what, like you're a 10th Q, a 5th Q, a 4th Q, and then you're a Dan, first degree black belt, knee dots, all that. Q means boy or girl. Dan means man or woman. Okay, so first degree black belt is high school. All right. And 12 years old, you don't have that ability. Okay.
I know.
They didn't give a black belt till you were 18 back then when I was training. And unless you were a special case and you had your stuff together, was the teacher, who was a good teacher will know. All right. The belt does not make the man. The man makes the belt. So belt's meaningless. Like the belt is your ego.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what he was trying to impart on me. And I was just too egotistical and too closed-minded and too narrowing in my own vision to see that.
Well, you know what it really was? Low self-esteem.
Well,
I know
that
what I
came
mean.
out
That's,
later.
huh?
That came out later.
No, it was always there. It just took on a different form. And see, low self-esteem also breeds insecurity. It also breeds entitlement. You're not recognizing me.
Right.
It gets kind of complicated, but it all starts from when you're younger, but it takes on a different form. You see, and as you go through, then it starts to pop up because the more experience you have, the more knowledge you have, the more you're able to see things that you wouldn't see when you're young. Now, imagine the age that you are now, going back in time and trying to talk to that 12-year-old. How far do you think you would get?
Not very far.
Not very far. Why? Because now you have all this experience. Nothing beats experience. Nothing. So that's why they say youth is wasted on the young.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
You should get back into it.
Well, I actually found another martial art called Sistema. It's a Russian martial arts.
Okay.
And it combines Greek Orthodoxy and Russian Orthodoxy with martial arts. So it's like I got into that, and I'm just like absolutely blown away by some of the stuff because it has the Budo aspect of martial arts. We have no belt system, we have no ranking system, we have no tournaments. And I'm like, this is martial arts.
This is what you want. So that's what you got.
Yep.
Okay. Because you know why? You were ready for it now. You weren't ready for it when you were hiding in your room.
No.
So there's the gift. So that's what we have to tell everybody, well, your audience, hey man, get out of your room. Look at the gift that's waiting for you.
It's a big, beautiful gift.
There you go. Look at the smile it gives you on your face.
Absolutely. We actually touched up quite a bit on gut health and how it actually really helps improve mental health. Let's dive into a little bit of let's get a little nerdy here and dive into a little science with this stuff. So how does like gut health improve mental health?
Okay. Well, we said earlier that Dopamine and serotonin is manufactured in the gut. Autoimmune diseases also come from the gut. Everybody used to think bacteria is bad. No, there's good bacteria and bad bacteria. When you take antibiotics, it kills all the bacteria and throws your body out of homeostasis. Most people don't understand that. So, like I said earlier, that the dopamine and serotonin goes up what is called the vagus nerve into the brain. So if your gut's out of whack, your brain's going to be out of whack. It's that simple. There's a group of doctors, about 85 of them, that did a series. It's called The Broken Brain. Very interesting series, and a lot of gut issues that people have, okay, because of their diet. Excuse me, because of them not taking care of themselves. People need to take at least 50 billion probiotics. That's number one. And make sure it's done with a GMP lab, which is a third party to oversee the manufacturing habits of the company. Make sure you're taking a probiotic and a prebiotic. Prebiotic is the rain, probiotic is the seed, because when you take probiotics, eventually that bacteria dies unless you feed it with prebiotics, psyllium husk, all that kind of stuff. All right. Then when you eat, you take enzymes. So the enzymes helps break down your food, and it helps for the nutrients to get assimilated into your body. So you need to really take care of your gut. But some of the things that destroy the gut, I'll give you an example. Rice, okay? You know what you get out of rice besides rice?
Nothing. Gluten.
No, you get arsenic. Look it up. Anything I tell anybody, don't believe me. Please tell your audience, I don't want you to believe a word I tell you. Go look it up. Yep, they found a lot of arsenic in rice.
Wow.
It's really interesting. I never knew that, but I found that out. So you got to be careful what you're eating. Even the nutrients that you take, you got to be careful there's any heavy metals in those nutrients. Because heavy metals stay in your body and you have to chelate them out. Now, there's different ways to chelate. You can get IVs to chelate, okay? Or you can do chlora. It's a certain herb that can help you get it out, but you have to get it out. So, yeah, the gut is extremely important. Don't feed it sugar. If you ever seen how sugar was made with the chemicals that are in it, it's unbelievable. That's why it's so bad also. And it comes in different forms. So, they trick the public.
Is there a difference between regular, like obviously regular sugar is like just
Brown sugar, you're
poison.
going to tell me?
Well, no, not even brown sugar. I'm more like thinking like sugar cane.
Well, sugar cane is a pure form of sugar. It may not be as bad as the other sugar, but it's a real good substitute sugar? Stevia, but a certain kind. It's called cal, okay? It's liquid, and it doesn't have that funny aftertaste, and it's sweet. So if you have and those people who crave sugars, they have a chromium deficiency. Remember, we're made of chemicals too, and bacteria. So when it's out of balance, the body craves certain things. And it's a chain reaction, what goes on.
Hmm.
You move one thing, you move nine.
Yeah. Is there a go-to diet that you use?
Well, the best, I'm not the greatest when it comes to diets myself, okay, to be honest. I'm a great dieter. I know what to do. Look, every once in a while, I like a nice piece of meat, most of the time I want grass-fed meat, if I can get it. We actually shop at Whole Foods and do the best organic we can do. But we don't really know if it's organic or not, even though it says it's organic. So, it's so hard. If you move to Greece, okay, you're better off because the food's going to be a hell of a lot better because have you ever eaten, I've been to Europe a bunch of times. You ever eat a tomato in Europe and then eat a tomato here? You think you're eating a fruit from Mars in the United States, okay? It's like
I
night and
remember
day.
I remember the chickens from my grandmother's house to
Right.
chicken here. It's night and day difference.
It's not a chicken. It's a chemical walking around. But I mean, it's like crazy. What we did to our food supply is insane. Okay, which we wanted to prolong the shelf life, and we destroyed everything. Like I see you drink a bottle of water. I'll give you an example. Okay, we all people drink bottled water. They go, well, I wouldn't drink any other water but bottled water. Okay, first of all, you don't even know where the bottled water comes from. That's another issue. Okay, secondly, all right, which is very interesting. You do shower. Some people take baths. Your body's drinking water that way. So if your house is not filtrated, okay, from where it comes in, uh, you're having all the bad crap that's in our water supply too. So you can drink bottled water all day long. It doesn't even matter. You got to watch out. I have reverse osmosis in my house also, and I have a filtration system. But a lot of people can't afford that. So you do the best you can to make sure you see where the water comes from, what well and what brand. I mean, like I said, the wealthy people that are into health stay healthy, and us people that have no money, we do the best we can with what we have.
Yeah. You also talked about something of removing heavy metals from your body. Now, there's so many different types of detoxes out there that people can do to remove heavy metals. And when you do remove them, you feel so much better because I've done a couple and I felt great right after. Problem is they keep coming back. How do you fix that? Like to remove the heavy metal and keep it out.
Well, first you have to know where you're getting it from. Like we just talked about rice, okay? Um, Certain fish, swordfish, has mercury in it, and there's different kinds of fish. There's all kinds of stuff on the internet. You can find out which is what, and what to eat or not to eat. Um, I have two from karate, doing it for 60 years. I have two hip replacements. And thank God I do heavy metal testing. I have cobalt poisoning in my body from the implant. It's a titanium and cobalt implant. So what happens is it leaches into my body and it can cause all kinds of havoc. So what I do is I do chelation, I do glutathione IV, and I also do suppositories that have chelation in it, that are chelators. And that's what I do. So you have to learn where you're getting it from. Then you have to take care of it.
Okay, cool. Cool. Um, because all this kind of stuff actually like heavy metals, it actually amplifies stuff psychologically, especially when it comes to
Yes, it
mental
interferes with
health,
neurotransmission. Yeah.
yeah, depression and anxiety. um
Do you know allergies do that too? Cause depression, anxiety. Low thyroid also causes depression and anxiety.
I knew about the low thyroid, but not about the allergies. That's quite interesting because I've been suffering from allergies personally. I can only speak about myself, right? So, since I was a child, like I remember my springtime was havoc for me.
But there's
So,
different kinds of allergies. Okay. And let's say you got allergic to peanuts. You give a guy peanuts, they go into shock. They need an EpiPen, right?
yeah,
So why not think that allergies can cause depression?
yeah. No, you're
I mean,
absolutely right.
it's crazy the stuff that like I found out with things. You know, um, I'm going to be 75. I don't take any medications. I work out. I fight. Listen, I tell my wife, we laugh sometimes. I says, yeah, I'll probably get hit by a bus. You know, but I do the best I can. I think, I did stem cells, and I'm into all that. I'm into stem cells, exosomes. You know what exosomes are?
No.
Okay. Exosomes are the bubbles that come off a stem cell wall. And they're RNA messengers. They send the instructions to the next cell.
Okay.
That's what exosomes are. And the exosomes I get it is from umbilical cord. And you get it through IV. And it helps with inflammation. Inflammation is the one thing that causes havoc in our body.
Yeah.
See? So I do that. I did stem cells with the University of Miami School of Medicine. I had a program and I got into it that it's stem cells from a 30-year-old. See, my stem cells were too old. So the 30-year-old stem cells mix with my stem cells and makes them younger. So, in your mind, in your brain, you have certain little switches that go on and off when we age. That's why your hormone levels change and your whole ecology of your body changes as we age.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a thing called sentient cells, or zombie cells, they call it. Now, what is that? These are cells that they don't die completely. So they're not functioning properly, but they're still around and they clog up the works. I mean, I love knowledge, so I'm into all this stuff. And I work with I work with scientists and researchers from 25 universities on all kinds of stuff. So, I mean, I learned stuff that I'm saying, oh my God, how am I going to do all this stuff? I do the best I can.
Yeah.
But your mindset is really important. Your mind is very important because, believe it or not, your thoughts can create health.
That can also be translated through self-talk as well.
Right. That's why I said your thoughts.
Yeah, because
Self-talk.
I remember when I was suffering from depression, these conversations that I would have with myself when I would see myself in the morning was in the lines of, I fucking hate you. I wish you were dead. I can't stand you anymore. How important is it that I know we've touched up quite a bit on this, but how can someone actually just start? Because it's one thing to change a conversation. It's another thing to believe that
I'm
conversation.
glad you said that. Okay, here's the thing. Look at what it takes to believe something. First, you have to understand it, right? So you can't believe something you don't even understand sometimes, What I suggest people do, and I give my clients that suffer from depression, I said, look, when you're feeling whatever you're feeling and thinking whatever you're thinking, I want you to write it down. Bring it out into the world, okay? Keep a log of what you're thinking about. And then give it a couple of days and then go back and read it. And know what you're going to say? What the hell's wrong with me? Oh, shit, I said that? Oh, yeah. That's how you do it.
Okay.
Then you have positive affirmations. Because it's kind of hard to have a positive affirmation when you go, yeah, all right, here's a positive affirmation. I'm not going to do this, I'm that. And you don't believe in it. So it's just like words. But when you see what you're doing, that turns into positive affirmations.
Absolutely.
That's just my suggestion.
No, that's a great suggestion because it's so true. Like when you bring it out into the world and you can see it for yourself, which is why I believe also that exercise is also very powerful.
Paramount exercise.
Because when you can see your body changing, it will also change your mindset as well. Do you believe that?
Okay, now let me explain something about exercise. I'm also an exercise trainer too. I've done so much stuff, forget about it. Exercise alone does not change your body. 90% diet, 10% exercise. And that's a fact. So, what you got to do is it has to go hand in hand. You get people that exercise and they still the same way they were when they started years ago. I don't understand why I can't lose my belly. Well, maybe you shouldn't stuff your belly with all the crap that you're eating. Right?
Totally agree with that.
So, I mean, come on, man. Poor guy's running on a treadmill and he's got a hot dog in front of him chasing the hot dog.
Sorry, there's a gym here in Toronto that they actually have, which all the gyms are closed by the way, but when they were open, they were having every second Monday they were have like pizza day, and it's like what? You can have all you can eat pizza. Just come into the gym.
Right. Come into the gym and work the pizza off. It's called the pizza workout.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, the joke is when you have a guy that's overweight, would you take his favorite food and get a fishing rod and put it in front of him and let him chase the food, you know? So that's how you can help yourself. But don't eat the food.
Oh, this is awesome. I mean, John, I can talk to you for hours upon hours. But I appreciate your time. So we're going to be wrapping up the show in just a little bit. Uh,
Okay.
Before we do, I want to ask you these 6 or 7 questions that I ask all my guests, just to get your feedback on it and just to get your point of view. With the increase in people suffering from depression, from the constant lockdowns, opening up, lockdown again, what would be the one thing that you could tell them to keep their hopes up?
Well, let me tell you, I was on lockdown too because my wife has a kidney transplant that our daughter gave her the kidney. So I had to be real careful. She had to be real careful. What I did was I wound up writing my book. I wind up calling my friends and doing all kinds of different things that I wanted to do. I wound up cleaning places that I didn't clean before, straightening out my office. I got more stuff done, okay, than I ever got done. And then I started learning how to appreciate walking and looking at the plants and the trees. And, I didn't have to be in crowds, you know, it was safety first. But you change your mindset, man. Okay. Now you could look at it as, oh God, I can't do it. Look, when we go out, what are we doing? Trying to do is get a distraction. Okay. Oh, I want to have fun. You know, you want to have fun, start thinking about fun. Do things in your home. You can have all kinds of fun. Okay. People don't do that. Okay. We always need to go someplace to have fun. No, fun is a state of mind. Laughter is a state of mind. Change your state. With you want to go to Greece. Anyway, all right, go ahead.
Um, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
Wait a minute. I never look 5 years ahead. I see myself a moment at a time. I don't like living in the future because then you can get disappointed. So I just look where my feet are, and that's my future.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. If you could pick up the phone right now and call yourself at 20 years old, what would you tell yourself?
Nothing. You know why? Everything that happened to my life brought me right where I am today. I don't want to change a thing. Good, bad, and indifferent.
That's really, 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 really good. Really good. I love that answer. What scares you?
What scares me? Oh, going in the ocean with sharks. But I don't go in the ocean, so it's okay.
Okay. Where can people find more about you?
They can go to John, the letter J, Giordano.com. That's Giordano. If you want to know about my life story and what I do and what I went through, go to uh, Amazon. You can get my book, The Kid from the South Bronx Who Never Gave Up.
And we will post all your links with the show notes so everybody has easy access to your content and to reach out to you too if they need help.
Cool.
Any final thoughts?
Yes, I really appreciate what you're doing. and you came out of your room, and now you're in a different room, but now you got a headset on. So, but you're not feeling like you were. So you're helping people, and you're bringing guests on that share their experience, strength, and hope. And you're doing, as far as I'm concerned, you're doing God's work. What better high than that, man?
There is no better.
Nope.
Thank you so much, John, for everything that we talked about here on this. And I've been like looking at your content, and it's just absolutely mind blowing. With even your podcast, Beat Your Addiction podcast, your books, your everything that you do for trying to help people get out of whatever crap that there's going on in this world. And at 75 years young, you are just kicking ass. So I am so grateful for you for all the hard work that you're actually putting through. So thank you so much.
You're very welcome. By the way, it's not work, it's my life.
I love that answer too. That's so awesome. I love it. Going through hard times is just a test. What you need to know is that when you get out of whatever you're going through, you will be stronger than ever before, and you don't need to go through it alone. Always know that you are not alone. Stay tuned for more real people with amazing stories that are just like yours. Until then, to everyone out there listening, I wish you a good morning, good afternoon, or good night, wherever you may be in this crazy world.